Welcome back to the deep dive. We are so glad to have you with us today. Now, before we get started, I want to ask you to do something a little uncomfortable. I want you to take the mental image you have of the natural world, that picture in your head of nature, and prepare to completely dismantle it.
It's a necessary demolition job, I'm afraid. We have to tear down the biases before we can rebuild the reality of what life on Earth actually looks like.
Because if I say the words animal kingdom to you right now, be honest what pops into your head. It's a lion, isn't it?
Almost always a lion.
Or maybe a panda munching on bamboo. Or a golden retriever, if you're feeling really exotic. Maybe, I don't know, an elephant or a blue whale.
That is the standard response. It's what we call the vertebrocentric view. We are mammals with backbones, so we naturally relate to and, look for other mammals with backbones.
Yeah, we look for faces we recognize.
We look for fur, we look for two eyes and a mouth arranged in a way that makes sense to us.
Exactly. We look for us in the mirror of nature. But here is the statistic that absolutely floored me when we started digging into these sources. Specifically, this massive, incredible collaboration between DK and the Smithsonian called Animal. If you take every single mammal, bird, reptile, amphibian, and fish, everything with a spine, everything that you would typically see in a zoo, and put them in a pile. Do you know what percentage of the animal kingdom that is?
It's a humbling number. It really is.
It is 3%. 3.
It's just staggering when you think about it. It means that 97% of the animal kingdom is completely unaccounted for in that standard mental image.
That is our mission today. We are leaving the 3% behind. No lions, no tigers, no bears. We are diving into the hidden 97%, the invertebrates. And honestly, this isn't just about bugs or worms. These things are aliens.
Oh, absolutely.
We are talking about creatures that have no brains but can hunt with strategic precision, animals that punch so fast they literally boil the water around them, and giant clams that have invented solar power.
It really is an exercise in understanding biological success. We tend to think that being big and smart, like humans or, chimpanzees, is the peak of evolution. We think we won the game. But when you look at the data in the source material, the invertebrates, the animals without backbones, have colonized every single niche of this planet.
Every single one.
They were here hundreds of millions of years before us, and in terms of sheer numbers, diversity, and survival capability, they are the undisputed masters of Earth. We just live here.
So we have a lot of ground to cover. We are drawing from some rigorous scientific backing here, thanks to the Smithsonian connection. So we aren't just looking at weird facts. We want to explain how these things work. We want to get under the hood of that 97% and understand the mechanics of their survival.
And I think the best place to start, before we start looking at the specific creatures, is to actually define what we're talking about. Because animal is a word we use constantly in casual conversation, but biologically, it has a very strict checklist.
Yeah, let's unpack this, because in school you learn the game. Animal, vegetable, mineral, and it seems simple. But at a cellular level, or even a behavioral level, the difference between a sponge and a salad isn't always intuitive.
It's complex. Scientists currently divide life on Earth into 6 kingdoms. You have the microscopic worlds, archaea, bacteria, and protists. These are the guys you usually need a microscope to see. Then you have the macroscopic heavy hitters, fungi, plants, and animals.
And while the difference between a mushroom and a monkey seems obvious to the naked eye, when you get down to the cellular level, you need rules to separate them.
Precisely. The source material outlines a checklist that every single organism in the kingdom Animalia must meet. It's like a club membership. If you don't meet the criteria, you don't get in. First, and this separates us from the bacteria and many protists, animals are multicellular.
Okay, so being a single cell doesn't count. You need a body built of many cells organized into tissues. You need complexity.
Correct. You need a team of cells working together. A bacterium is a lone wolf. An animal is a society of cells. Second is the energy source. This is the great divide between plants and animals. Plants are autotrophs. They are self-feeders.
Right.
They use solar energy to synthesize their own sugars through photosynthesis.
They just sit there and eat the sun?
Exactly. Animals, on the other hand, are heterotrophs. We cannot make our own food. We have to ingest living organisms or the remains of dead ones to get energy. We are consumers.
We can't just stand in the sun and get full, unfortunately. That would save me a lot on grocery bills.
It would revolutionize the global economy.
Yeah.
But no, we have to hunt, gather, or farm. Then you have gas exchange. Animals need oxygen to release energy from that food, and they need to release carbon dioxide as a waste product. Whether it's complex lungs like ours, feathery gills in a fish, or the tracheal tubes in insects, that gas exchange has to happen.
And then there's the sensory stuff. This is where it gets interesting for the brainless animals we're going to talk about.
Right. Nearly all animals have networks of nerve cells. Now, this ranges wildly. In humans, it's a centralized, highly complex brain and spinal cord. In a jellyfish, it's a nerve net, a loose mesh of sensors spread over the body.
So not a brain, but it still senses things.
It still senses things. But the function is the same, detecting light, heat, touch, chemicals, or sound. It is about processing input from the environment and reacting to it.
And finally, the big one, mobility.
The most obvious feature, animals move. They swim, walk, fly, crawl, slither. They have to move to find that food we mentioned or to find mates. Plants generally wait for things to come to them. Animals go and get it.
But wait, I have to challenge this based on the notes. What about the barnacle or the coral? They are stuck to rocks. They don't go anywhere. Are they not animals?
They are absolutely animals, but they are stuck as adults. This is the key distinction. In their larval stages, barnacles and corals drift or swim.
Okay.
They have a mobile phase where they explore the environment to find a suitable place to settle. So at some point in their life cycle, they are explorers. That counts.
It's amazing to think about that timeline, too. The source material has this great visualization of animal history. For the vast majority of Earth's history, 4.6 billion years, it was quiet.
It was microbial world for billions of years, just slime and single cells floating in the primordial soup. The first simple animals didn't show up in the oceans until about 600 million years ago.
That seems like a long time ago.
It does, but in the context of Earth's age, it's relatively recent.
Yeah.
And land animals, they're even more recent, appearing around 430 million years ago.
So in the grand scheme of things, animals are the new kids on the block. And once they appeared, it wasn't just smooth sailing. We have to talk about natural selection because there is this classic story in the source material that I think perfectly illustrates how survival of the fittest actually works. It's not about being the strongest. It's about the peppered moth.
Ah, yes, the peppered moth. It is the textbook example of evolution in action. Usually, evolution takes thousands or millions of years, but this occurred rapidly enough for humans to actually observe it happening in real time.
So set the scene for us. We are in 19th century Britain. Top hats, cobblestones, and the very beginning of industry.
Right. Before the Industrial Revolution kicks into high gear, the peppered moth population was mostly pale. A light, speckled gray pattern. This wasn't a fashion choice. It was a survival trait. They spent their days resting on lichen-covered tree bark.
Okay, so they blended in.
Perfectly. Being pale made them practically invisible against the light lichens.
So being white was the winning strategy. It was the camouflage that kept you alive.
At that time, yes, there was a genetic variation, a dark, almost black moth. But it was incredibly rare. Why? Because if you are a black moth sitting on a white lichen-covered tree, you stand out like a beacon. You get eaten by birds immediately.
The gene doesn't get passed on.
The carrier gets eaten before it can reproduce. Exactly.
But then the factories start up, coal smoke, Manchester becomes the chimney of the world.
Exactly. The pollution was intense. It killed the sensitive lichens on the trees and coated the trunks with black soot. The environment inverted. Suddenly, the pale moths were glowing white against the black, sooty bark. They were being picked off by birds in droves.
But that rare dark mutation, suddenly that mistake became a superpower.
Precisely. The dark moths were now camouflaged against the soot. They survived, they reproduced, and they passed on that dark gene. The pale ones died out or were eaten. Within a few decades, the population completely flipped. The dark form became the standard.
It really drives home the point that fitness isn't a permanent badge. It's entirely context dependent. You can be the fittest one day, and then the environment changes, and suddenly you're the weakest.
Evolution is a reaction to the environment. When the environment changes, the definition of fit changes. It's a constant arms race.
And if you can't adapt,
you go extinct. The source notes a terrifying statistic. More than 90% of all species that have ever existed are now extinct.
that is a heavy number. It makes you realize how fragile this all is. We look around and think this is how it's always been, but we're just seeing the current survivors.
It is. And we see that risk today with the polar bear. It is highly specialized, perhaps too specialized for hunting seals on sea ice. As the climate warms and the ice melts, that specialization, which made it the king of the Arctic, becomes a trap.
It can't adapt fast enough.
It cannot just decide to become a forest bear or vegetarian overnight. Evolution is usually slow. Environmental change, as we are seeing, can be very fast.
So that is the framework. Multicellular, eaters, movers, sensors, constantly adapting or dying. Now, let's leave the vertebrates, the 3% behind. Let's dive into the ocean and look at the soft-bodied assassins, the cnidarians.
Cnidarians are a fascinating entry point because they represent some of the simplest animals, yet they are incredibly effective predators. We're talking about jellyfish, corals, and sea anemones.
And when you say simple, you mean really simple.
Very basic. No brain, no heart, no blood. A very basic digestive system that has only one opening, a blind gut. That means they eat and expel waste through the same hole.
Efficient, but unpleasant. I'm glad we evolved a second opening. But despite having no brain to plan an attack, they are terrifyingly good at killing things. We need to talk about the sting, because I think people just think, oh, it's like poison ivy, it's a chemical on the skin. But the mechanism is so much more mechanical than that. It's essentially high-tech weaponry.
It is. It's a microscopic ballistic missile. The tentacles are covered in cells called cnidoblasts. Inside these cells is a capsule containing a coiled, hollow thread with a venomous tip. Think of it like a harpoon gun that is cocked and loaded under high tension.
And it's hair trigger, right?
Literally, there is a tiny trigger hair, the nodosole, on the outside of the cell. If a fish or a swimmer's leg brushes against that trigger, the lid of the capsule flips open.
And
Then physics takes over. Water rushes in, increasing the pressure inside the capsule, and that coiled thread shoots out. It accelerates at 40,000 Gs.
40,000 Gs. That's not possible.
It's one of the fastest biological events known to science. It punches through the skin and injects the venom, and this happens in microseconds.
So you aren't just getting touched by poison, you are being shot by millions of microscopic hypodermic needles.
Exactly. And because it's a mechanical trigger, it works even if the jellyfish is dead, or if a tentacle has been severed. As long as the cell is intact, the gun is loaded.
The source details a few specific species that use this. Let's talk about the Pacific sea nettle. It's this huge golden brown jellyfish drifting along, but it has a sidekick.
This is a great example of how nature finds loopholes. The Pacific sea nettle eats small aquatic animals. Anything it touches dies. But there is a fish, the Pacific butterfish, that lives inside the tentacles.
Which seems suicidal. That's like living inside a lion's mouth.
It would be, but the butterfish has evolved a cheat code. It has a thick layer of slimy mucus on its skin. That mucus prevents the stinging cells from triggering, or prevents the harpoons from penetrating.
So it's a living shield.
It's a living shield. So the fish gets a mobile fortress, it hides in the tentacles, safe from its own predators who wouldn't dare approach the jellyfish, and it eats the scraps the jellyfish drops.
That is a bold strategy. I'm just going to live in the minefield because no one else will follow me there.
High risk, high reward. If the mucus layer fails, or if the fish accidentally brushes a sensitive part of its body against the tentacle, the fish is lunch.
Then there is the box jellyfish, or the sea wasp. This isn't one you want to hitch your ride with.
Absolutely not. Found in the Indo-Pacific. It has about 60 tentacles, each 1 meter long. The venom here isn't just painful, it's systemic. It attacks the heart, the nervous system, and the skin cells simultaneously.
The source says it can kill a human in minutes.
Yes. The shock and pain alone can cause drowning before the heart failure sets in. It is a reminder that you don't need a big brain to be a top-tier threat. You just need very effective chemistry.
And then we have the Portuguese man-o'-war. Now, I always thought this was just a weird jellyfish. It looks like a blue plastic bag floating on the water. But the source says this extraordinary organism is not a single animal.
This blows people's minds. It is a siphonophore. It looks like one animal, but it is actually a colony of thousands of genetically identical individuals called polyps.
So it's a team, a corporate entity.
It is a highly specialized team. Imagine if your arm was a separate animal and your stomach was a separate animal, but you were glued together and shared a digestive system. In the man-o'-war, you have one huge polyp that becomes the gas-filled float, the sail that sits on top of the water.
Okay.
You have other polyps that are strictly for feeding. They have mouths. Others that are just for reproduction, and others that form the tentacles for defense.
They're so specialized they can't survive alone.
Correct. If you separated the stomach polyps from the sail polyp, they would both die. They function as a single unit, but biologically, it is a cooperative colony. It challenges our very definition of what an individual is.
That is wild. Speaking of biology, the life cycle of a jellyfish is way more complicated than baby jelly becomes big jelly. It reads like a sci-fi movie about cloning.
It is a complete metamorphosis. The adult jellyfish you see swimming, the medusa releases eggs and sperm into the water. These form larvae called planulae. These larvae don't turn into jellyfish immediately. They swim down and attach to a rock.
And they turn into a polyp, right, like a little sea anemone.
Exactly. It looks like a little flower rooted to the rock. It can live like that for a long time. But then, triggered by environmental changes, it transforms into something called a strobila. The source describes it as a stack of miniature jellyfish.
A stack of jellyfish?
Imagine a stack of dinner plates in your cupboard.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Now imagine the top plate starts to wiggle, pops off, and swims away. Then the next plate, then the next. Each plate is a baby jellyfish called an ephera. They drift off, grow into the adults, and the cycle starts again. So that one polyp on the rock can release dozens of jellyfish.
So the thing swimming in the ocean is just the final, mobile stage of a really complex process. It makes mammals look so boring, we just get bigger.
Mammalian growth is very linear. Invertebrate growth is often cyclical and transformational.
We should also touch on corals while we are in this group, because again, perspective shift. Corals are animals. They aren't rocks. They aren't plants.
They are colonies of tiny polyps, very similar to the sea anemones. They sit in little cups and secrete a limestone skeleton calcium carbonate underneath them. That skeleton is what builds the reef.
And the shapes are incredible. The source shows brain coral, which looks exactly like a human brain.
That shape maximizes surface area. And you have sea fans. These are the ones that look like ferns or trees. They orient themselves against the current to act like a net, filtering plankton out of the water. They're animals acting like static traps.
So that's the Phoenidarians. Simple, stinging, and colony building. Now I want to move to a group that confuses me because of how diverse it is, the mollusks.
Phylum Mollusca. It is a very confusing family reunion.
Right, you have a clam, a snail, and an octopus. If I put those three in a lineup, I would never guess they are related.
It's not intuitive.
Yeah.
But it comes down to a few shared anatomical traits, even if they look very different on the outside. They usually have a muscular foot used for movement. They have a mantle, a fold of tissue that covers the organs and usually secretes the shell. And they have a radula, which is a ribbon-like tongue covered in tiny teeth, though the bivalves have lost theirs.
Okay, let's look at the bivalves first. The clams, specifically the giant clam. The source says these things can weigh 660 pounds and be 4.5 feet across. That is a bathtub-sized clam.
They are massive.
Ah.
And they're the heavyweights of the coral reef. But the coolest thing is how they get their food. Yes, they filter feed, they suck in water and filter out plankton, but a clam that size cannot sustain itself on plankton alone. It's too big.
This is where the solar panels come in.
In a way, yes. The clam has millions of microscopic algae living inside its mantle tissue, the colorful fleshy lips you see. The clam opens its shell to expose this tissue to the sun. The source notes the tissue even has transparent windows to let light deep inside.
So the clam is farming.
It is agriculture. The algae use the sunlight to create sugars via photosynthesis, and they share those sugars with the clam. It's a symbiotic relationship. The clam provides a safe home. The algae provide the groceries.
That is amazing. Solar-powered clams. And while we are on bivalves, we have to debunk the idea that they just sit there. I want to talk about scallops.
Scallops can fly. Well, swim, but it looks like flying underwater.
How? They don't have fins.
Most bivalves dig into the sand and stay put, but the queen scallop lies on the seabed. If a predator, like a starfish, approaches, the scallop claps its two shells together rapidly. This jets water out of the hinge, propelling the scallop backward. It's jet propulsion.
So you're swimming along and suddenly a scallop just zooms past you, clapping its mouth.
It's a chaotic escape method. They can't steer very well, but it works. Gets them out of the starfish's reach.
Moving on to gastropods, snails and slugs. Again, we tend to think slow and harmless. A garden snail isn't exactly threatening, but the ocean is different. The source introduces us to the cone shell.
The cone shell is beautiful. The shells have intricate geometric patterns, which makes people want to pick them up on the beach. Do not pick them up.
Why not?
They are ambush predators. They hunt fish. Now, think about the physics of a snail hunting a fish. The fish is fast. The snail is slow. If the snail just bites the fish will swim away. So the snail needs a weapon that works instantly.
The harpoon again?
A modified version. It has a specialized tooth that acts like a hollow harpoon. It shoots this into the fish and injects a complex cocktail of neurotoxins. This isn't just a painful sting. It's an instant paralytic. It stops the fish's muscles from working in milliseconds.
And the source says this venom is potent enough to be dangerous to humans.
Absolutely. There are records of fatalities. It's a nerve poison that shuts down your diaphragm. You stop breathing.
Note to self, don't touch the pretty shells. Now, let's talk about a snail that ditched the shell entirely, the nudibranch, or sea slug.
Nudibranches are incredibly colorful, neon blues, oranges, purples. In the ocean, being colorful usually means one of two things. I am poisonous, or I taste terrible.
The source mentions the Spanish shawl nudibranch. It's purple with orange fringe, and it has a superpower that reminds me of a video game character. It steals weapons.
It does. It feeds on hydroids, cousins of the jellyfish we talked about earlier. It eats the stinging cells, but, and this is the biochemical miracle, it prevents them from firing during digestion. It manages to transport them unfired from its stomach to the tips of the serrata, those colorful frilly bits on its back.
So it arms itself with the weapons of its prey.
Correct. It repurposes the artillery. If a fish tries to bite the nudibranch, it gets a mouthful of stinging cells that originally belonged to the hydroid. It's acquired defense.
That is brilliant. Okay, now we get to the rock stars of the invertebrate world. The cephalopods. Squids, cuttlefish, octopuses. The name means head foot, right?
Yes, cephalopoda. Because their arms protrude directly from their head. These are the intelligent aliens you mentioned in the intro. If we are looking for intelligence that looks nothing like ours, this is it.
The giant Pacific octopus. We have to talk about its brain. Or rather, its brains. The source says they have mammal-like eyes and can solve problems.
Their eyes are a case of convergent evolution. They evolved separately from ours, but arrived at a very similar solution. A lens, a retina, an iris. But the nervous system is the real story. An octopus has a central brain, but 2/3 of its neurons are distributed in its arms.
So the arms can kind of think?
In a way, the arms can taste, touch, and make local decisions without checking in with the central brain. If an arm finds a crab, it can decide to grab it and move it to the mouth. The central brain might be doing something else entirely. It's decentralized intelligence.
That is hard to even imagine. And this intelligence allows them to do crazy things.
They are escape artists. They can unscrew jars to get food inside. They can navigate complex mazes. They can escape through gaps only slightly larger than their beak because they have no bones.
The beak is the only hard part.
The only hard part, it looks like a parrot's beak. Everything else is compressible. If the beak fits, the octopus fits.
Then there is the vampire squid. With a name like that, you expect a monster.
It's actually quite passive. It lives in the deep ocean, the dark zone. It's named for its appearance. It has a cloak-like webbing between its arms, and it's a reddish color. But it doesn't suck blood. It eats marine snow.
Marine snow.
It's the detritus, poop, in dead matter drifting down from the surface. The vampire squid just floats there with sticky filaments collecting this falling trash.
It's the janitor of the deep.
Essentially, a very goth janitor.
And we can't skip the color-changing ability of the cuttlefish and squid. This isn't just camouflage, it's communication.
It is a dynamic display screen. They have cells in their skin called chromatophores. These are sacs of pigment surrounded by tiny muscles. By contracting or relaxing those muscles, they can expand the pigment dot or shrink it to invisibility.
And they do this instantly.
Milliseconds. Because it is controlled by the nervous system neurons firing, it is electric speed. Contrast that with a chameleon, which uses hormones in the blood to change color. That takes minutes.
So a chameleon is dial-up internet, and a cuttlefish is fiber optic.
That is a fair comparison. They can create rippling waves of color to hypnotize prey. They can flash warnings. They can match the pattern of the sand beneath them so perfectly they vanish in plain sight.
Okay, let's march on. Section 4, the armored legion, the crustaceans.
This brings us to the phylum Arthropoda. This is the big one. Arthropods, which includes insects, arachnids, and crustaceans, make up 80% of all animal species.
80%.
Yes. If you're an animal on Earth, statistically, you probably have jointed legs and a hard shell.
The suit of armor, the exoskeleton.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a great defense. It protects the organs, provides attachment points for muscles, prevents water loss. But it has a major flaw.
It doesn't grow.
It's a straitjacket. To grow, the animal has to molt, it has to crack open its back, pull its limbs out of the old shell, which is difficult and exhausting, like taking off a wetsuit that is 3 sizes too small, and then swell up to expand the new, soft skin underneath before it hardens.
And while it's soft,
It is defenseless. A soft-shell crab is a snack for everything, so they usually hide during this process. It's a period of extreme vulnerability.
let's look at the common lobster as our heavy hitter here. The source points out something I never noticed. They are asymmetrical.
Yes, if you look closely at a lobster's claws, they are different. One is the crusher, big, heavy, rounded. It's used for smashing shells of clams and snails. The other is the cutter slender, sharp, used for tearing flesh.
A knife and fork.
Evolution has given them a complete cutlery set attached to their face, and they have that amazing regeneration ability. If they lose a claw or a leg in a fight, it grows back over the next few molts.
And the escape mechanism.
The tail flip, you know the big muscular tail we eat? That is an engine. They curl it rapidly underneath them to shoot backward. It's their panic button.
Now, my favorite crustacean, the peacock mantis shrimp. This thing is a rainbow-colored nightmare for anything that lives near it.
It is pound for pound one of the most powerful animals on Earth. It has club-like appendages that it uses to smash open clamshells and crab shells.
How fast is the punch?
It strikes with the speed of a .22 caliber bullet. It is so fast that it creates a phenomenon called cavitation.
Explain that.
The arm moves so quickly through the water that it creates a vacuum bubble behind it. When that bubble collapses, it releases a massive amount of energy, heat, and light. It momentarily boils the water.
So it hits you with a fist and a thermal shockwave.
Even if the punch misses, the shockwave can stun the prey. Aquariums often don't keep them because larger specimens can actually smash the glass tanks.
That is ridiculous. And they have amazing eyes too, right?
The most complex eyes in the animal kingdom. We humans have 3 types of color receptors: red, green, blue. That gives us our rainbow. The mantis shrimp has upwards of 12.
12?
They can see polarized light, UV light. They're seeing a world of color and detail we can't even imagine. We don't even have words for the colors they see.
I feel like we're just skimming the surface of weirdness. Let's talk about barnacles. I mentioned them earlier. They are crustaceans.
They are. People think they are mollusks because of the white shell. But inside that shell is a little shrimp-like creature lying on its back,
Doing what?
kicking food into its mouth. Those feathery things you see waving from a barnacle are its legs.
So it glues its head to a rock and eats with its feet.
A very accurate description.
And woodlice. The roly-poly bugs we find in the garden.
Crustaceans. They're one of the few crustaceans that managed to conquer land, but they haven't done it perfectly. They still breathe using gill-like structures that need to be moist.
That's why you always find them under damp logs or flower pots.
If they dry out, they die. They are land animals that are still tethered to the water.
And one more crustacean before we move on, Antarctic krill.
Individually, they are tiny, shrimp-like things, but collectively, they are a biological superpower. They exist in swarms so massive they can be seen from space.
And they support the biggest animals on Earth.
The blue whale eats almost nothing else. It's amazing. The largest animal to ever live survives by eating some of the smallest, just in massive quantities. Millions of tons of biomass.
Okay, we have reached the final major group, the ultimate success story, the insects.
If aliens came to Earth and did a census, they wouldn't call this the planet of the humans. They would call it the planet of the insects.
Yeah.
They are the largest group within the arthropods. They have conquered land and air in a way nothing else has.
The numbers are staggering. And within insects, the beetles are the kings.
The statistic is mind-bending. 1 in 4 of all known animal species is a beetle, not just insects animals. If you line up a lion, a salmon, a spider, and a beetle, well, if you line up 400 animals, 100 of them are beetles.
Why are they so successful? What is the secret sauce?
It's the elytra.
The wing cases.
Right. Most insects have delicate wings. If you are a butterfly or a bee, your wings are fragile. You can't burrow into the ground. You can't squeeze into tight spots under bark without damaging your ability to fly.
But a beetle?
A beetle has hardened its front pair of wings into an armored shell. When it flies, it lifts them up and uses the back pair. When it lands, it folds the delicate wings away and locks the armor down.
So it's a tank that can fly.
Exactly. It can burrow into wood, dig in the ground, swim in water, and its flight gear is safely stowed away. It opens up every habitat. It's an all-terrain vehicle.
We have examples like the stag beetle with those huge jaws.
Which look terrifying, but are mostly for wrestling other males. They are like antlers.
And the great diving beetle, which takes an air bubble underwater like a scuba tank.
Adaptation at its finest. It traps air under its wing cases so it can breathe while hunting underwater.
Now, if beetles are the tanks, dragonflies are the fighter jets.
The emperor dragonfly is a marvel of engineering. Insects were the first animals to fly long before birds or bats, and dragonflies represent that ancient, perfected design.
The flight mechanics are unique, right?
Yes. They have 2 pairs of wings that beat independently. This allows for vectoring. They can fly backward, they can hover, they can shoot straight up, they can anticipate the path of their prey and intercept it rather than just chasing it.
And they catch prey in midair.
They are aerial predators. They form a basket with their legs to scoop mosquitoes out of the sky, and their vision supports this. Their compound eyes wrap almost completely around their head. They have nearly 360-degree vision.
You can't sneak up on a dragonfly.
Very difficult.
Yeah.
And their life cycle is interesting, too. We see the beautiful flying adult, but they spend years underwater as nymphs,
And the nymphs are scared.
voracious predators. They have an extendable jaw, labial mask that shoots out to grab fish or tadpoles. They rule the pond bottom before they rule the sky.
From the solitary hunter to the terrifying swarm, let's talk about the desert locust.
This is a story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Explain that, because I thought a locust was just a type of grasshopper.
It is. And for most of its life, it is a solitary, harmless, camouflaged hopper. It stays away from other locusts. It's shy.
So what changes?
Food scarcity. If a drought forces them to crowd together on the remaining patches of vegetation, the physical contact, literally the sensation of their back legs bumping into each other, triggers a hormonal release. Serotonin levels spike.
And this changes them physically.
Physically and behaviorally, they change color from green to bright pink or yellow. Their muscles get stronger, they become aggressive, and they start to move as a group.
The swarm.
A single swarm can contain 40 billion insects. They move like a fluid. They strip fields bare in minutes. It is a natural disaster made of biology. But it only happens when they are forced together.
And finally, we have to address the deadliest animal title holder.
People guess shark or cobra or lion. But the deadliest animal is the malaria mosquito, specifically the female Anopheles.
Because she needs blood for her eggs.
Yes. The male feeds on nectar. The female needs protein for egg production, and in the process of biting, she transmits the Plasmodium parasite. It kills over 1 million people a year.
It is humbling. This tiny, fragile creature, you can crush it with 2 fingers, has shaped human history more than any dinosaur or tiger. It has decided the outcome of wars.
It shows that in the animal kingdom, size does not equal impact.
So let's zoom out. We have gone from the deep ocean with the vampire squid, to the backyard with the garden snail, to the skies with the dragonfly, and we have barely scratched the surface.
That is the takeaway. We focused on the invertebrates, the 97%. They rely on numbers, on rapid adaptation, on specialized tools like venom and armor and chemical warfare. They don't need our big bones or our big brains to succeed.
And here's the thought I want to leave everyone with. The source mentions that about 1.4 million species have been described and named, but scientists estimate that this is likely fewer than 20% of the actual species on Earth.
We are still discovering them every day. The stocked jellyfish in the Antarctic mentioned in the source. That's a recent find.
So, if we are still finding things like that, what else is out there?
The deep ocean is largely unexplored. The microscopic world in the soil is teeming with unknown life. We are sharing this planet with millions of aliens we haven't even met yet.
We're living on a planet that we mostly don't know. That is exciting and a little bit terrifying.
It is the beauty of science. There is always more to find.
So next time you are outside and you see a bug or a shell, don't just walk past it. Take a closer look. You are looking at the dominant life forms of Earth.
We are just guests in their world.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you on the next one.